the Quinn Marr Show.
My next guest built an impressive resume before most kids his age were even allowed to cross the street alone. He held his own alongside Will Smith in Hancock, stole scenes as Bo Miller on Friday Night Lights, and then became everyone's favorite fast-talking little brother as S.J. Tui in the Oscar-winning The Blind Side. It is my pleasure to welcome the Quinn Marr Show, Jae Head. Jay, what's going on, buddy?
Much, Quinn. I am glad to be here, man. I appreciate the invite, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Thank you so much for coming on here. I'm excited to chat with you. So, normally what we like to do is go back to the beginning and then come up to where we're at now in the present. So for you, I know you were born in Hamlin, Texas, and growing up in Texas, obviously it's a big sports state, which kind of ties into your acting as well with the football. Was sports kind of like what your world was revolved around? Like, I know your dad was a coach, and then you had mentioned about being born with a heart defect, where it was like they weren't really sure 100% what it was. They're saying about like parts of your heart when you're born were like severely underdeveloped or just non-existent. Do you want to just like kind of get into all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, sports for me have been massive. I mean, from the get-go. Yeah, my dad not only was a coach, he still is. He's a football and basketball coach, and over the course of my life, he's coached football, basketball, baseball, tennis, golf. You know, he's done it all where, you know, depending on what school, you know, we were at, because as you know, coaches, you know, it's hire and fire quite a bit. You're moving around a lot. But fortunately for us, my dad was able to get hired when I think I was probably 8 or 9 at his alma mater. And that's where he's been ever since. And so, yeah, sports were always a big deal for my family. I have a brother. He's a year younger than me, much larger than me. He was a 3-year, 3-sport all-state athlete. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, a great football player, great basketball player, phenomenal baseball player. And I was not. So I was, yes, like you said, I was born with a congenital heart defect. The closest thing they could map it to was a defect called hypoplastic left heart syndrome, which at the time of when I was born back in 96, about 25% of kids were surviving this because it was just such a, and it's not like a hereditary or anything. They said it's like getting struck by lightning twice. Like it's just, you just lucked it, you hit the lottery.
Yeah.
But not in a great way.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And yeah, so it means different things depending on each case is different. But in my situation, my scenario, my aorta, so the big valve, the half your heart, mine was the size of a string when I was born. So it was completely useless, obviously. And so I was supposed to have 3 open heart surgeries, ended up having to have 4 because the third one failed. And those were some really dark days for my family. But I had the 4th one done, and, things are good. They did tell my parents, hey, like, he's not out of this. It pretty much, in other words, they kind of put a Band-Aid on it, and we're just like, hopefully one day technology and medicine will catch up to where, one day when he has problems again, maybe they'll be able to do something about it. But, I never wanted to look, my parents were very good to me as far as like, we didn't look at it like that. And they didn't want me to feel like I was made of glass, and walking around scared of everything in the world.
Like a bubble boy.
Exactly. Yeah. My parents were like, we're not having him be like that because his life will be horrible if he lives like that.
Yeah.
And so I did everything else. I fought with my brother. I fell, I scraped my knee. I got in fights as a kid, just like everybody else. I had about as normal of a childhood as I could. Although I wasn't allowed until really I was about 13 to play sports. I was very limited. Of course, I've always been the smallest guy in any room, in any sports team, any classroom, I've always been, so it wasn't like they were missing out.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah. It wasn't like Shaq trying to play basketball and they're like, oh no, sorry, you can't play.
Yeah. It wasn't, you know what I mean? And they weren't exactly missing out on my help with that. But it was a really tough thing growing up because, like I said, my dad's a coach. And he was, a good athlete in school. And then my brother was, like I said, he won countless awards all throughout the state. And, he would go to basketball camps in the summer and baseball camps, and he would win like hardest working person or, most improved or MVP. He played in all the All-Star games, and I was lucky if I even got on the field or got on the court.
Right.
And so a very big contrast, but I always had this personality, and I think part of it is due to me spending so much time when I was very, very young in hospitals, around doctors and nurses, that I just kind of developed this personality of just being able to talk and just being able to go and, always being able to, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. If you'll talk to me, I'll talk to you. I don't care. And so I always was that. And then, Shrek would come on the TV, and I would be able to say it word for word with the TV perfectly. I could do impressions since I was very young. I was always just that weird kid who was always like, I would do voices and different things like that in my room by myself. Like I was just that weird kid.
You were definitely a class clown, huh?
Oh, dude, my desk was outside.
Yes, me too.
All the time, I got kicked out.
Nothing is better or was better than making the entire class laugh.
Yeah,
even though the teacher obviously didn't like it, dude. That's such a fire you up moment. Like you feel like the king when that happens.
Yeah.
And then you're in the hall with your desk.
Yeah, and then you're out there by yourself, and you're like,
yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, that's when you're a kid and you can get the whole class to rally behind you. That's as good as gold.
The best. You remember one time I had a supply teacher, and I guess he just got fed up of just me being a little jackass. So and talking and stuff. So instead, he was being a smart ass and had me face the wall. He goes, "Well, if you want to be so talkative, you can talk to the wall." And he probably thought okay, now he's gonna shut up. So I was being a smart ass too, and I started loudly talking to the wall as if we were having a conversation, just to be a little dickhead.
I was the exact same way.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because my parents were teachers. My dad's a coach and a teacher, and my mom's a teacher. She just retired. Okay. But I never got threatened with the principal's office. I got threatened with, "Hey, your dad's classroom's 3 doors down."
Oh, so you went to the school that they were teaching at?
Yeah.
No way.
My dad actually was my 11th grade history teacher.
What?
Worst ever, because I'm big into history. Because my dad, like I said, he's a history teacher. So I grew up watching documentaries and World War II, this and that, and I love history. I'm a big nerd when it comes to that, but zero slack in that class. You know what I mean? I failed a test, which granted I blew it, and I just overthought everything and failed a test one time in his class, grounded for 3 weeks.
What?
Yeah,
I would have said, well, what the hell? I mean, you're the one marking it. You should have given me a better mark.
Oh no, I completely blew it. There were questions I knew the answers to, and I think it was just the pressure of well, this is dad, this is my dad, and he's a coach, so he's a very strict man, and so yeah, I failed that. And he grounded me for 3 weeks, but I remember one time I was we'd finished all our stuff and we were kind of waiting for the class to end, and so of course I put my head down on my desk for a little bit, started snoozing a little bit, and all of a sudden, bang, right on the desk. "Why are you sleeping in my class?" I look around, everybody else is out. Everybody else is, and he's like, "But not me, not allowed. We're not doing that. You can't, But that's just how it was. But
so you must have known then going into the class, hey, he wasn't going to give you any special treatment.
Oh, no. Far from it. And he started being my coach before he was my teacher. First time my dad was ever my actual coach was when I was in 8th grade. And he was defensive coordinator for the varsity high school team, but he was also the head coach for the 8th grade at that time, because he was one of the newer coaches, and that's kind of just you got to pay your dues and coach the middle school teams for a couple years. Okay. And so, but I remember there was my 8th grade year that I was up for an actual starting position just because I went to a really small school and I didn't get the job. And this kid that did get the starting job was not. We were the same size, and I was like, no, I am better than that kid. I might not be better than all these kids, but I am better than that kid. And he pulled me, and he knew it pissed me off, and he pulled me aside and he said, I can't give you that job off rip. I can't just start you out there, because even if you are better and you do deserve it, nobody will see it that way, because they're saying dad's giving the kid the starting job. So, but it didn't matter, because that kid 2 weeks later quit the team and I got the job anyway. So,
okay, so it worked out.
But yeah, so I was always a class clown, always wanted to make people laugh, still do. I'm still a jackass. You know what I mean? It's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm always the one that if there's a joke to be made, I'm going to make it. Even if it might get me in a little trouble, I'm probably going to make the joke.
Absolutely.
It's who I am. So it was perfect for show business. And the way I started is very strange. My dad was coming home from work one day when I was probably 7, I think, and heard an advertisement on the radio, and it was basically saying, "Hey, there's this talent pro scout search thing. If you think your kid can dance, act, sing, anything like that in the arts, anything like that, bring them to this event, have them prepare something. There's going to be directors, producers, coaches, managers, agent, all that kind of stuff, and see if your kid has what it takes to, survive in Hollywood." So we have no idea. I mean, like I said, we're from small town in the middle of nowhere in Texas. My dad's a coach. My mom's a teacher. We have no business being in anything around Hollywood. But they just were like, well, he can't do sports, but they knew that I felt left out. All my friends, all my friends played, all my friends were starters, all my friends were doing all these things, and I was not getting to do any of that. And so they were like, he's kind of feeling left behind. Maybe this is an avenue he can kind of strive in and he can really do well in. So I prepared a monologue, basically doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. And I was probably, like I said, 7 years old. I bet I weighed 25, 30 pounds at that time. And I ripped my shirt off on this stage and I was flexing, doing all this and posing and doing all that stuff, and made the entire place just go ballistic in this huge ballroom at this hotel. And it's like kids from the crowd that are also waiting to get up there, all the coaches and all the producers and stuff like that. I mean, the whole room blew. I mean, it was just going crazy. And afterwards, an acting coach that had seen me perform pulled my dad aside and was like, "Is that your kid that was doing that monologue, but about the bodybuilding?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's him." And he goes, I think he actually can do this. He's actually got some legitimate talent. I want him to come out to Los Angeles. And I want him to work with me. I want to train him and teach him and coach him." And we don't know. We think, it's probably a scam. You know what I mean? You have no idea.
Right.
It's a random guy. And he's saying, "No, I can do this. And I can, your kid's going to be famous one day." All this kind of, you're not going to believe that. You know what I mean? That's a completely different world for us. But we took the chance. We rolled the dice. And me and my dad left my mom and my brother back home in Texas. And me and him packed up the family car and drove out all the way to Los Angeles. And that coach helped me, who I will forever be in debt to, just because he changed my life. He helped me get my first agent, my first manager, really coached me, taught me kind of how this works and how to do it and how to be effective. And I started going on auditions and doing all that kind of stuff. And 3.5 months in, after however many auditions I did and got rejected at every single one of them, got told no, got laughed at, got told get the hell out of here. I mean, anything you can imagine, I've seen it and I've had it happen. And I booked my first professional role on How I Met Your Mother, which was at the time a brand new show. This was not, this is season 1. And it was one scene, one line, 8 hours worth of work for the whole thing. And that was all that I got that whole first season was that. And it was really cool. And looking back at it, it was kind of proof that this planet existed out here somewhere. You know what I mean? That we were trying to get to. It was proof that it could exist. And so we took that moment. I mean, it felt like I won an Oscar. You couldn't tell me nothing. You know what I mean? I said 3 words on TV and it was huge. It was a big deal. I was in the newspaper in my hometown about it. And it was, we had all my family came over and we watched it and we all huddled around the TV and I said one line and
what was the line?
It was crazy.
What was the line?
It was, "You're all sweaty." So literally that's the whole line. That was the whole thing. So I literally, the scene was, I was this kid that climbed in a one of those crane machines, for toys, the claw machines. So I climbed in one of those because I wanted the toy in it. And then they had to call the fire department to come get me out. And so I'm sitting in there, and then this guy comes in who's trying to flirt with the news reporter who's doing the special on, "There's a kid locked in a crane machine, and this is very," and I'm just sitting there just, and that was it. And that was the whole, after however many months of work it took and all the no's that we got thrown at, that was all we got. And but it was good enough. And it was a great start. And that's how we kind of started rolling off since that.
So just to confirm, you went from your dad hearing that ad to going to LA or doing that monologue, going to LA, How I Met Your Mother. You never did like any school musical or play or anything like that?
I think probably the winter before all that had happened. I was a little young, so it kind of overlapped a little bit. At some point during around there, I did a community play for my
Just
home.
one.
Just one, yeah, just one. But
What the heck?
yeah, no, I wasn't in theater as a kid. Even after I started acting, I think I did theater in 8th grade, and then I did theater my freshman year because the drama teacher was like also one of the other teachers for another class, and she was like, "Listen, I'll cut you a deal. If you do this play for our school, you don't have to do anything in class." And I was like, sold.
No problem.
So I, for a few months I did, so that's the only school plays that I've probably done. Yeah, 2-3 school plays ever. But after, this is after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, before that, I'd maybe one play.
It's also insane because, like, obviously your parents had nothing to do with like entertainment or performing or anything.
No.
Your dad literally hears one ad and goes, "You know what? Yeah, I think he could do it."
Yeah. It was, they told me from the beginning, they were like, if you don't want to do this, we're not making, like, my parents I love my parents to death because they always were like, we're never going to make you do anything. If you want to quit, you can quit. And there were many times we're talking this close to being like, I don't care. I don't want to do this anymore. And then always something would just, kind of grab my shoulder and just in the back of my mind, you're just like, no, we can stick it out for a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. We can stick it out. And, they were very cool about it. And they were always like, if you want to quit, you can quit, but you have to be the one to make those phone calls to tell your team you quit. We're not going to do that for you.
Right.
And I'm like 8, 9 years old during some of these times. And they were like, you're going to make that phone call. We're not doing it for you. So like, it was always up to me, which is something I've always looked back and really respected that my parents did that, because I had friends that were in Hollywood that, like, they didn't want to be there. They absolutely hated it. But their parents were like, no, this is good. You should want this. This is great. It could all work out. And then I had friends who made it big and, like, made some good money. And then their parents retired and lived off of them. And it was just like, and then there's the stress of that. And my parents were never like that in any way, shape, or form or capacity. They were always like, this is your thing and this is your life. And we're never going to tell you what to do or how to do it. But we just ask that if you're going to do it, you do it.
100%.
Yeah,
100%, 10%, right? So then were you going into the auditions and like seeing like pretty high named like child actors in there that like didn't want to do it kind of thing?
So at the time they weren't very big names, but now they're, now that we've gotten older, they've kind of grown. But there's a lot of guys that I came up with, and yeah, they just, a lot of them die out, and that's the reason you don't see a lot of them anymore, is because you get to a certain age, and also the transition from, and we talk about it a lot, and people don't realize, is like the transition from being a child actor to an adult actor is crazy. And it's so much more difficult than I ever could have imagined. Because like I still act and I still do all that, but it's like a lot of this business is you waiting for permission. You waiting for permission to get to work. You waiting for permission to even try to get to work. And a lot of the times I felt like, and I've talked about this with other people, of like, I think a lot of child actors, they do succeed because they're a cute kid who looks like the family, who looks like the parents. And that's kind of it. And then they get into they get older and older. And then it becomes more of like, no, we'll deal with your looks and all that later. But are you any good at this still? Like, can you get into a character? Can you act? Because there's a lot of people that like got by, but just being cute kids.
Right.
And it's a really eye-opening experience when you get out there and you realize, like, oh no, like this is a completely different game when you mature and you become older.
How much you think, like, after you did that monologue and then that coach talked to you and everything, how much coaching do you think you actually really needed to like follow a script and be in the right spot and all that, just instead of just trying to be funny? Did you feel like you needed a lot of coaching?
I've never really had much coaching ever in general.
Right.
Oddly enough, my dad, I don't know why my dad just naturally had an idea. And like, prior to any of that stuff, I'd never had any training. My only coach that I had for acting was my dad. And he doesn't know, you know what I mean? But like the philosophy, if that's what you want to call it, that I've always used and, practiced is, you're just trying to put you in this position. If your character is in, you're sitting in a hospital room with your dying grandmother. Okay, well, what would you feel like if you were sitting in a hospital bed and your grandmother's sitting there, and so you mentally put yourself there. you know? And so it's like, because if you can put yourself there and you can be in that moment mentally and emotionally, it'll come out naturally, if that even makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no, it does.
You know, because like I see so many things of like people are like, you know, they're so worried about the lines and they're so, how do you learn all that? How do you get the words right? And I'm like, if you get the feeling and you get the moment, if you're there in your, like, if you feel like you're actually there, the words will come to you. And I know it sounds feng shui and, you know, kind of cheesy, but that's the only way I ever knew, you know? So it was like, so learning scripts and like, that's really what I had to learn was like, you know, how to say the words on the page rather than the words that came to my head.
Right.
That would be where I messed up. And I still struggle with that today. Is there's many times I just go off and I just start talking.
Yeah. So you'd be perfect for improv then. Do you do improv now?
I do a little bit here and there. And that stuff is scary because like you'll be writing stuff. You're like, dude, this is going to kill. This is great. And then you get up there and do it and it completely bombs. And you're like, all right, that's horrible. I'm going to go jump off a bridge now. Like I've been laughed at. Like not in a good way on stage, and it's very humbling, but I do enjoy that, and I'm a huge fan of stand-up for that reason. It's just because there is an exciting aspect to it. But yeah, you're 100% right. It is very much like that. But yeah, that's always the way I've done it, and I've been to class, and like I've gone to classes, and I still am in class now. You know, just because the way I look at it and the way it was always explained to me, I always compare everything to sports, just because it's literally all I know.
Yeah.
So it's like I look at it in the same way as like an athlete has to constantly be in shape to be able to perform. It's the same thing, except instead of weight room, it's acting class. You know, it's how to be in character, how to think like this, how to think like that. If I was in this situation, what would it be like? You know, so you're constantly kind of having your mind being worked out. It's, you know, instead of your body.
100%.
So that's kind of how I was always approached it.
No, and that's a great analogy too. Like you said, that I mean, sports is kind of really all you know. I mean, you know so much about sports too, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you and I are the same age. So when you would have been on How I Met Your Mother, I mean, I would have been too young to be watching it. I would have been like, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 or whatever. But one show I did watch when I really wasn't supposed to was Mad TV, and I know you were in an episode of that. You're in, I think it was called Ring Around Skit.
Yes.
And your name was Jimmy. So can you tell me about this guy? I tried to find it on YouTube. I couldn't find it. Can you tell me about it?
I have scoured the internet trying to find that bit because it is hilarious. And I don't remember how I watched it. A little over a decade ago was the last time I watched it. And I don't know if it was something we had recorded on like a VHS tape that I found in my mom's attic, you know, or something like that or what. But I watched it. And yes, so first of all, I was not, when we shot that, so there's like 5-6 kids. All the other kids got to watch the rest of the taping. Like their parents were sitting there. We were all in the green room and all the other kids were sitting there watching all the other skits. My dad was like, go in that other room. You're not watching this.
Like, yeah. Cause I mean, Mad TV, dude, it was like a raunchier SNL.
Yeah, literally. And it's actually, I didn't know this until I had watched it, whatever the last time I got to watch it, but Jordan Peele is one of the guys in it. He's one of the ring arounds. And it blew my mind. I was like, there's no way that was Jordan. I mean, it was him before he was Jordan Peele, but it was him.
It's crazy what he's turned into in the last like 10 years.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I mean, both like Key and Peele is one of my favorite shows of all time. And then like his you know, Us was great. You know, Get Out was great. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I even liked the movie Note that he did. I thought that was I watched it recently. I still think it's a good movie. When I went and saw it, these 2 guys were sitting next to me and they fell asleep during it. And like after it was over, they were like, "That was the dumbest movie I've ever seen."
It was good. I liked it.
I was like,
Nope was the one on the farm, right?
Yeah, that's the UFO one.
Yeah.
It's a great. I loved it. I loved it. But yeah, so he's in it, and the skit was basically making fun of the Wiggles and how like they always have like songs that they do about this and that. But all the situations were like really messed up situations. So like Sammy, the girl that was to my left, her whole bit was that the song that they started singing was she just gotten a new stepmom. And she was kind of battling with that. She liked her stepmom more than her real mom. Because her and her stepmom could go get tattoos together and they could go get belly button piercings. And, you know, her stepmom was cool and hot and, you know, all this. And then you had Dylan Minnette, who's the kid from 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
Me and him came out. We were coming up about the same time, and his whole, I can't remember what his bit about, his was different, his was something else, but my character, the one they were talking about with me was how I had to blow into my dad's magic car whistle to get the car started because he couldn't do it after drinking too much adult grown-up soda. So the
good.
whole thing is I had this little tool and I like blew into it and they're like, what is that? What do you got there, Jimmy? And I'm like, it's my dad's magic car whistle. Anytime me and dad want to go somewhere, I have to blow into this thing or the car won't work. And like, that's the whole bit. And like when you're 7 years old, I had no idea why that was so funny.
Yeah.
And then I watched it years later and I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard of. And it talks about like the song is like, there's a line in the song about we got kicked out of Chuck E. Cheese because my dad started a fight. And then he tried to blow into the car whistle and it just didn't work. So then the cops showed up and it was hilarious. But like looking back at it, it was a completely inappropriate thing. And like, I'm sure my parents were just like, the whole time I was on there. But like you said, I can't find it anywhere. I have scoured the internet trying to find that clip because it is absolutely hilarious.
I use ChatGPT a lot to find things that I can't find, and I even asked it to look for me, and it couldn't find it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so frustrating because it had to have been we recorded it on like DVR or VHS or something.
That makes sense.
Because I was probably in high school last time I watched it.
Right.
So, but yeah, like
that's over 10 years ago. Then
no. This was I did that before I had done. I think that was probably right after How I Met Your Mother within the next year or two after that. Like because I started when I was 7.
On IMDb, there's like the order of it is, and I know you can't always follow that, but it goes How I Met Your Mother and then Mad TV. What were you doing in between? Do you remember?
That was probably when I was doing that community theater. I probably did that. That was probably because, like I said, I can't remember exactly when all that lined up, but it was probably in between that because what I was doing, I was only going back for pilot season, which was like January to like March, January, like April. So it's only like a couple month period. Now it's like all year is like there's stuff going on all year. But back then it was like January through April was like you have to be in LA during these months because this is when shows are booked. This is when new shows that are coming out in the fall are being casted and filmed. So like this is the time to be out there. So we would fly out or drive out and stay out there for 2, 3, 4 months. Hopefully book something while we're out there to keep me out there a little bit longer. And otherwise we would just come back home.
Were you not doing commercials?
Man, I have booked one commercial my entire career. It was a Hallmark Mother's Day commercial and they cut me out of it. Those bastards. I swear.
No way.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is. And I've auditioned. I've hundreds of auditions for commercials. And it's just, I've never had any luck. I don't know what it is about commercials. But I have friends that like they kill it at commercials and like that's all they're able to book. They're not able to book film or TV. But I had a buddy who he was like looking at his numbers. He was like, I'm booking like 1 out of every 5 auditions for commercials I'm going on. And I'm like, dude, I've booked 1 ever.
Well, hey, they're all booking commercials, and you started a movie with Sandra Bullock. So I mean, who wins?
No, I'm not that bummed out about it.
Yeah, exactly. Going into Friday Night Lights. So this is a show that I tell my fiance all the time I want to start and watch, and she always says no, but I want to start it. So I was watching clips on it yesterday, and obviously I was watching. It was like literally a video, literally just about Bo Miller, obviously your character.
Oh yeah.
And what was that like audition process like? Because at this point, like you're technically, I think it was only 5 episodes you're in, but you were technically a series regular, I guess, or would that not be considered that?
I think I don't know what they would consider because originally I was only supposed to be on for like 2 episodes originally.
Oh,
like 2 or 3. Like I wasn't supposed to be on there much at all. But I also that project is the dark horse of my career because it launched me. It was the reason I booked Hancock, and it was a very weird thing because I only got to audition for it, flat out got to even try for it because it filmed in Austin. It filmed in and around Austin and Pflugerville. And since I was in Central Texas, I was considered a local.
Right.
And so I drove to Austin and auditioned for this role. It's like Austin's like 100 miles away from my hometown. But like, because I was technically a Texas local, they let me audition for it. And I didn't know this at the time. But apparently the original design for Bo Miller was he was supposed to be this chunky, completely unathletic fan who happens to live next door to Tim Riggins. And he was supposed to be like this easily picked on kid, and his football was going to be his thing that he kind of gets him out of his shell. Was kind of the original idea.
Okay.
So I show up to this audition in Austin, and I'm looking around, and all these kids are like thick. These are some big kids, and I'm not. Never have been. Like right now, I weigh probably $120 right now. You know what I mean? So like, I show up to this audition, and I prepared it, and I went in it because I was like, it's football. I can talk about football all day. I know everything about it. And I go in and I read the audition and I do my part, and they're like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, kid. That's like it. So like, what do you like to do? Are you big into sports? Do you like sports? And I was like, ding, like, yeah, oh, I love it. It's so great. I love football. Football is my favorite, and just being myself and talking about it. And I talked about this in a recent interview I did. This was probably in January or February. I can't really remember. But that past football season, my high school team had got knocked out of the playoffs off of a bullshit offensive pass interference call that blew the game-winning drive. And then we lost, and that was and I was in fifth grade at the time. And that's how my high school team season ended that year.
Uh-huh.
And for whatever reason, they're asking me about football questions, and that popped into my head. And so I start talking about it, and I'm like, well, they screwed us on this call. They've been grabbing us all night. And, then finally we grabbed them one time. They call it on us, and it cost us the game, and their season was over, and blah, blah, blah. Going off, and I'm just telling a story. I have no idea. They just, my dad was like, in job interviews, just go in and start talking until they tell you to shut up.
Yeah.
Like, essentially.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I did, and that's always been my strategy. And I tell that to people even today. That's the advice I give people. And that's what I did. And so I start telling that story, and they all kind of like, it's like the director and the producers, and they're all kind of like sitting there, kind of like looking at each other. And they were like, stay here real quick. And they all left me in this room for like 5-2 minutes by myself. And I'm just like, okay, like I've never had this happen. This is weird. And then they come back, and it's like, they brought like everybody, all the people that were working at that production office, they brought them all in. And they're like, Jay, tell us the story again. Tell us what you just told us. So I start telling the story again, and I'm like, as you can see, I'm an expressive. I'm moving my hands a lot and whatnot. So I'm like acting it out. I'm like, the guy's got him like this, and he's like holding on, and I'm doing that. And they're laughing and they're going crazy. And they're like, thank you, Jay. It was great. Have a good one. And I leave, and after you do your audition, you have no idea what's going to happen next. So I just left, went back about my life, and a couple weeks go by, and I get a call, and they're like, hey, he booked that. You got the job. And so I go to Austin, and I start shooting this, and a lot of the stuff in the first 2 episodes, a lot of it was scripted, but there was a lot of stuff that was unscripted that I just did. And they ended up extending, and I was supposed to be in a couple episodes. I ended up being in like the last 4 or 5 of the first season. And then they brought me back in the second season for like the first episode or 2. And then I got cut out of it. And then that was it. My character after that never came back.
That's so weird. Did they ever give you an explanation why?
Not to my knowledge. Maybe they did, but it never got to me.
Right. Because I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Because you were in you're in the season 1 finale, and then we never see Bo Miller again. Yeah.
So I don't know if they tried to go a different. I think they just started going a different direction with the show, or because at that point it kind of started kicking off and kind of really picking up speed. I don't know, but I remember seeing a video, or maybe it was an article years ago, and it was like top 10 things fans loved about Friday Night Lights, and my number 7 was the relationship between Bo Miller and Tim Riggins, and it was like a fan-loved thing. And I'm trying to steamroll that into momentum because I know they're doing a movie. They're doing a reboot for a movie for Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
That was announced back in the fall a couple months ago. And I've got my agent and my manager. I'm like, y'all be listening to that door carefully. If you hear anything that could be of use to us, you tell me, and we figure out how we can get me on that Well,
project. The best part is you look the same, so it's not even it would work so well.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So,
So
the
that
weird thing
happened.
was about that was that you had joined in the middle of the season. Was the show already on TV or not yet when you joined?
Yeah, it was. I was.
Oh, so did you know about the show or no?
No,
I know
I didn't
you're
know
little.
about it. I was 9, I think.
Yeah.
But I still remember when I booked it, and I was here in Austin, and I was staying at the hotel while we were filming, and I'm like laying in the hotel room, and I got to be at set the next morning, and I'm like scrolling on the TV in the hotel room, and sure enough, I'm on like whatever channel, Fox or whatever, and there it is, and it's like the episode it's like this week's episode.
Oh.
And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be on this show in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah,
That's
it was
pretty
already
cool.
it had already been going.
Okay. How was working with Taylor Kitsch? Was he just like a beauty or what?
Dude, he's the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
Like the reason that I love aviator sunglasses is because that's what he was wearing.
Yeah.
And like he shows up and he's, "What up, man? How you doing, little man? It's good to see you. Great to meet you. I'm excited to work with you." And I'm like, that guy looks like a superhero. Like
He looks
that
like
guy.
just the biggest weapon. Like, I mean, Tim
Yeah.
Riggins himself just seems like the coolest guy in the world, but like,
Yeah.
and then obviously Taylor Kitsch just seems the same.
Such a cool guy. And it was funny, because he's Canadian. And so he was living in Texas to film this, and so everybody's teaching him about Texas culture and this and that, and this is the kind of food we eat, and this is the whatever. And now he like lives here full time. Like he has a ranch out in the middle of nowhere in Texas. Like he loves it here now. But he was such a cool guy, and like super. I mean, I was very fortunate that we just clicked. We did have like a natural chemistry that I think really did show on screen very well. And I think that's why people, really did enjoy our characters, being together. And I get asked about that just as much as I get asked about anything else.
Right. Did you do a chemistry read with him at all or no?
No.
They just put you right in with him.
They threw me right in.
Wow.
First time I met him was when we were shooting the stuff, the first couple of scenes when we were in the front yard. It was
And
the first day.
when he's working on his truck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you watch the show after you were on it or no?
I watched a little bit of it and then I really got into it in the later seasons, and I kind of went back and watched through it, but not immediately after. It took me a couple years because I think I was just so young. I couldn't relate. I didn't understand it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know when you're 9, 10 years old. I don't care about what's going on in high school. But then once I was in high school, I was like kind of going back and watching it, and I was like, this is actually a pretty good show. I actually really like this show. Like
I wish I was on it more.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I always said that I always said, man, I really was upset that I never got brought back. Like I was hoping maybe a cameo or something somewhere in it, but it never happened, and I'm not really sure why.
You're talking about the possible reboot movie / TV show. Is it like, have you heard like it's like completely new, or is it like there's a chance that like a Tim Riggins can make an appearance, or is it like brand new characters? You don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's completely new. I'm pretty sure it's I don't know, because originally I thought it was going to be a show. And that's what I had heard originally. Uh-huh. And then like I said, I've been asking my team. I'm like asking all my guys. I'm like, what's going on? Are we hearing anything about that? And the last update I got was, 2-3 months ago, and they were saying it's not a show. It's going to be a film, and I don't think any of the original characters are coming back. But I'm like, well, that means my character would be perfect to bring back for that.
Uh-huh. And honestly, like I think a movie is a good way to test the waters to see if a show would work.
Yes, yeah, and I like that, because I agree with you, because I feel like it could be a little too much, too early if it doesn't, because then if it comes out and it flops, well, that's not great, But we'll see. I don't, I know it's a lot of the same team that's building it and creating it, from what I've heard. So we'll see. But I'd give my left foot. I'm telling you right now. Yeah.
I don't blame you. I'm gonna make a petition. Bring back Bo Miller.
I know. Hey, maybe we should start. We might have to get one going.
Literally. So then this must have kind of started to snowball into you getting the more roles. Like you mentioned about Hancock and then into Blindside. So where does Hancock get involved in all of this? Was it you got a call? Hey, we saw you on this show. We want you to audition for this movie.
Not quite. So Peter Berg directed the original Friday Night Lights movie, the 2004 film. Mm-hmm. And then he's the one who started and directed the first few episodes of the show when it turned into a show. And he didn't direct me in any of my episodes, but he was always on set. So I finished Friday Night Lights. I was 9 years old. And this was that fall or that summer. I can't really remember. But then that following summer, I'm out in LA for pilot season, and I get an audition for, at the time it was called Tonight He Comes. That was Hancock's original title.
Okay.
And I get an audition from that, and at the time I didn't know it until I got closer to the audition. They were like, "Hey, the guy that is directing this was also a director in Friday Night Lights, so he had seen my work. He had worked with me, on set and watched how I work and how I do things." And so I got to audition for it, and I talk about this all the time. My audition for Hancock, that experience is to this day the weirdest audition experience I've ever had in my entire life. Because normally what happens, they send you the script, they send you all the details that you need. You prepare it, you prepare the scene, whatever, you get it all ready. And then you go in, and they usually have a reader. They have somebody behind working a camera because they're filming you. And, granted, now it's all different, in the day and age.
Yeah.
But back then, this is how it worked. And then you have a reader, and then you have the producer, the director, and they're watching you while you do it. And then somebody's reading with you. So I get in there, and I walk in with the script, and I'm ready to go. I've been practicing all day, all week. I've ran this script probably 500 times. I'm ready to go. And Pete is in there. Pete's the coolest guy ever, but he's raw. He's just like, you watch his stuff and you see like, oh yeah, no, he's the real deal. He's not about that fake shit. He's in it. He wants you to like, if it calls for you to get decleated on the sidelines running an out route, you're getting knocked out. Like, it's happening.
Oh, wow.
But he's awesome. He's the coolest guy.
Yeah.
And he literally walks in. I walk in, and he puts on his shades, flips his baseball cap around so it's facing front, and he goes, "Put that script away. We don't need it." And I was like, I've probably been on 200-300 auditions at that point. Never had heard that in my life.
Ooh. And
he goes, "We don't need the script. I'm a superhero. Make me like you."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Oh, well, don't you want to be the good guy? There's bad guys over there. They're robbing a bank." He says, "I don't give a shit." "Well, you should give a shit because this is blah, blah, blah." And we're just like just bantering back and forth. There's no script. There's no reason. There's no plot. There's no context. We're just going. And then he goes, "Good job, kid. That'll work. Have a good one." And I'm like, I get out of the room. My mom's like, "How was it? How'd you do?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Really? Like, I wonder if you would have done that if you weren't a kid.
I don't know. But so that happens, and then I don't hear anything. Like, for like a month. A month goes by, and I don't hear anything. Oh. And in Hollywood, no news is bad news. Like, they don't call and tell you, "Hey, you did great, but we're gonna go with it." Like, they don't do that. You just don't hear about it. You find out you didn't get it when you see the trailer 6 months later.
Yeah, and you're not in
like,
it. Yeah.
I guess I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you find out. Like, there is no explanation. This is why you didn't get it. There's nothing. You just don't hear back. And so I get a call about a month later, and they're like, "Hey, they want to book you for this. It shoots in LA. It shoots over the summer. You're going to be leaving, and you're going to be doing that." And so I show up, and we get there, and it wasn't until years later that I kind of realized, like, luckily I've always been good at improv. Like, I've always been good at being off script and improv and stuff like that, and whatnot. And looking back at it, I think the reason he did that was because he'd seen me prepare a script and prepare a character and act and do all that. So he knew I was very capable of doing that. Plus the character, I'm just playing a kid. You know what I mean? It's not that difficult. You know what I mean? You're just playing yourself at that point. I think he was wanting me to do that and testing me that way because that's exactly how Will Smith is. Where he just sometimes he doesn't care what the script says. He just goes. And he'll throw you curveballs, and you'll go to say something and he won't say his line. He'll say something completely different, and you're just like, and you got to be able to pick that ball up and run with it. And I think that was him testing, like, hey, if I throw this kid in a scene where he's got to be one-on-one with Will Smith, is he going to drown?
That's scary, man.
And that's what I think. Obviously, I could be completely wrong, and I'd never had a conversation about it. But just looking, because I've never had another audition experience ever that was ever like that. And that's what I think it was. I think it was him going, I need whoever I hire for this kid, this role, to be able to hold their own if Will Smith starts, or even Jason, because Jason Bateman's kind of similar too. He likes to kind of sometimes just get going, and he just makes jokes as well. And I think that's what he was doing. He was seeing.
Did they do that with you while you were filming? Yeah,
all the time. I mean, there was countless and countless and countless takes of us where they would just not even say cut. They would just like, just keep going. the scene's over. Like, we've already done all the lines. And they're like, just keep going. And you're like, you know, and luckily for me, they were just good at, you know, I was able to keep up and, you know, kind of say things back and forth. And there's many things in Hancock like that are improv. And I just made a TikTok about it a couple weeks ago that there's a scene in Hancock where we go and visit him while he's in prison. And we're, you know, talking about, you know, it's me and Charlize Theron, and we're visiting him in prison or whatever. And my character at the very end of the scene, as we're walking out, I placed my little toy dinosaur that I like always had with me. I placed it on the table and I said, "Here, Hancock, it's my favorite one, but I want you to have it." And we leave. Well, that wasn't in the script. I just did that.
What?
Yeah, that was just a random idea that I had where I was just like, "Here you go. I want you to have this. Maybe it'll make you think of me," or something. I said something along those lines. Yeah. And Pete came up to me after that take and he was like, Who told you to say that? Who told you to do that? And I was like, no, nobody told me to do it. It was just I was in like I said, I try to put myself in the moment of what would happen if I was actually there. And so that's just what came out, and that's what I did. And he goes, "Good job, kid. I like that. Let's keep doing that. Keep rolling that. Keep doing that." Nice. And so every take, I'm doing it. And it actually made the final cut. And it's actually like, as an actor, it's one of my most proudest moments I've ever had, because it was like, that wasn't scripted. Nobody told me to do it. I didn't plan on doing it. It was just, we were in the moment, and I was kind of like standing there awkwardly, and I was like, I feel like I need to do something here. And I placed it, you know, and just did that. And it made it in the film. And and it's like I said, it's one of my proudest moments, and it stayed in the film. And, you know, I think, and that's just another, you know, of example of like, that I can do that. I can just kind of be in that moment and do like the natural, and Will played off of it perfectly. And that's so there's awesome. There's countless situations like that. And you know, and I loved it. And it was a great time. And it was a really great.
So cool, man.
Yeah.
Did you get to like chat with like Will or Jason or Charlize like offset? Like, did you ever ask them like questions just about like the business and stuff?
No, well, fun fact. It blew my mind. So we were shooting something, and I'm sitting there, me and Will are sitting on the doorsteps of the house. They're probably readjusting stuff or whatever. It's a lot of waiting around on set. Yeah. There's a lot of hours of just like, they told me to get dressed, but they haven't used me in 3 hours. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of time you're just sitting around, just chit chatting. And I was 10, and it blew my mind because I asked Will, I was like, "So how did you get this role?" And he was like, he just was like, I could tell he was like, my friend asked if I wanted to do it. I was like, "You didn't have to audition? You didn't audition or nothing?" He goes, No, I just had a friend that wanted me to do it, and I told him I'd do it. And I was like, "That's the coolest thing. I want that. I want to be able to get to where I don't have to audition. That's so cool." And like that, like I had those moments. Like
such a naive kid too, right? I mean, duh, obviously because you're a kid.
Yeah, and like he's asking me like, "Hey, like if you were a superhero, what superpower would you want?" And like we're like kind of going back and forth. Me and him kind of, we were shooting a bunch of stuff. Like, we were shooting the hospital shootout scenes towards the end, and me and Will are sitting there one day, and we're like in our chairs, and we're talking about like scenes that would be cool. And we're like, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if like a bad guy shot a bullet at you and you like caught it with your teeth, or like you caught the gun and like bent it?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." And then you know what could happen after that? We could, and like me and him are like going back and like things like that. Like he was like such a nice guy to me. And like,
right.
I know there's a lot of stuff going on with him, but like he was so nice to me. I got to meet like his kids came to set, and we're all about the same age. I think they're a couple years younger, but like he was just such a nice guy. And then Jason Bateman, who is, out of everybody I've ever worked with, Jason Bateman is the number one on my priority list to work with again, because his style and the way he does things is very similar to mine. And I was just a naive 10-year-old kid. I would love to work with him, being a fully grown adult who's aware of things going on, because he's hilarious and he's such a cool guy. He's such a fun guy, and he's a great guy. He got me in trouble though with the prop department. So there's a scene where I'm coming home from like a soccer game, something like that. And so I've got a soccer ball, and I'm in my like soccer uniform or whatever. And the prop guys were like, "Hey, like, you know, the soccer ball is your responsibility. Keep an eye on it. Don't lose it because you need it for the scene." And again, like I said, there's a lot of wait time. There's a lot of time you're just sitting around on set. So again, we're sitting there waiting, and I'm kind of outside in the front yard, just kind of kicking the ball by myself or whatever. And Jason comes up and he starts kicking the ball with me. And so me and him are just sitting there chit chatting. We're just kicking the ball back and forth. Well, that day on set, Jason brought his French bulldog named Goose to set. And at some point, one of us kicks the ball and it kind of hits a rock and starts rolling down the hill or whatever. And the dog sees it and just takes off after the ball and gets a hold of it and pops like this is in between takes and pops this soccer ball. And I grab it and it's like all flat. And I'm like, oh shit. Like we're in the middle of like, what am I going to do? And I go to like the prop department and I'm like, hey, like we had an accident. And I'm thinking like, Jason's going to be like, hey, my bad, guys. This is my dog. Now, disappeared. Gone. He was out of there. I had to take the fall for it. Never said anything. We never brought it up again. And it's like one of my favorite memories ever because it's hilarious. Like, I mean, ended up being, obviously it's fine. Like they had 30 soccer balls on deck. But like, it was hilarious because like you would think the adult would be like, hey guys, sorry.
It was me.
No, nothing.
You ran away.
He was out of there.
I've always like I've been a massive Bateman fan for like as long as I can remember, and so is my fiance. She loves him, and I've always thought like, hey, he kind of seems just like most of his characters. And I recently watched the documentary of him, Will Arnett and Sean Hayes of their podcast when they went on tour, and he literally is his characters. He's literally that's so cool.
But he's such a cool guy. He's such a good guy. And Charlize is also, she played my mom. She's fantastic. She's pretty intimidating though, because she just walks around with like this aura. Yeah. Just like she's got that movie star aura that surrounds her. And I made her blush. I don't know if it was good or not, but so we're midway through the shoot, so we all kind of starting to get to know each other. And again, we're just waiting around one day, and me and her are sitting on the couch talking. And she goes, so, Jay, you've kind of been working with us for a little bit. Who's your favorite? I don't know. I'm 10 years old, so I was honest. I was like, Jason. Jason's my favorite. I like Jason. She goes, Jason? What? Why would you say Jason's your favorite? I'm sensitive, Jay. And I don't know what came out. I said, like I said, I'm a jackass. And so she goes, well, Jay, I'm sensitive. Why would you say that? And I said, well, honey, we're all sensitive. And she goes, honey? Did you just call? And you could have heard a pin. Every crew member in there went and just scared. I mean, it was silent in that room after I said that. And but she was so great. Yeah, she was so great, and she was so good to me, like and everything. But I'll never forget that because it didn't even register to me. I was like, yeah, Jason's my favorite. I like working with him.
Of course, kid. If you're ever looking for the truth, just talk to a kid.
Yeah, literally.
They'll tell you the truth about anything.
Yeah.
The cool thing about Hancock that I just actually thought about this the other day, because obviously I was a kid when I watched it, but like Hancock really was like the first like anti-hero before it was cool, before like the Suicide Squad, which obviously Will was in, or like the Thunderbolts. Like he was the first anti-hero, which I think is really cool. And you talked about how like you would love to work with Jason again, and it's funny because I think it was in like February of this year. Will confirmed that Hancock 2 was in development, and he was saying how like Zendaya was approached for it. Charlize had mentioned that she wanted to return. Have you heard anything about this?
I've not heard anything. My team hasn't heard anything, and I am curious about that because there was rumors for many years after Hancock came out that they were already working on the sequel, but it was going to be a prequel, and it was going to show them. In all the stories that they tell in Hancock about their past, it was going to be showing that part of their lives.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's still the plan. I'm assuming probably, which kind of sucks because that means neither my character, nor Jason's character would return.
True.
So we don't know. Hopefully, if they change it and they're going in the future, not the past, maybe we can figure something, maybe.
There's another character. Let's bring him back.
I know. I'm like, dude, all these reboots, I swear to God, and we're doing them of things I've been a part of.
Exactly.
I swear. Like,
just kind of quickly, and you kind of mentioned it, and like we don't have to get like too deep into it, but like obviously, like Will had that whole Oscars thing with Chris Rock. Were you watching it when it happened, or had you seen it? Oh, you saw it live.
I watched it.
When you were watching live, were you like, "Hey, is this a bit?" Like, or did you?
I thought it was a bit. I thought it was a joke. I 100% thought it was a joke.
And
it makes me nervous because it's like I've always just like I've said, I can only describe Will how he was around me.
Yeah.
And the way I've always described how he was around me was he is exactly how he is in Fresh Prince. That's exactly how he was. He's funny. He's quick. He's like, I have a photo with him. Like I was sitting there on the couch and me and Pete, the director, were taking a photo with each other on the couch. And he like jumped in, like he's like photo bombing in the back, like stuff like that. Like, he was so great to me. He was nice to my mother. He was nice to my brother when he came, and like he was completely nice. And I keep hearing all these stories where people are like, no, like that's all an act. He's not really like that. And I'm like, well, I can't speak for that because I don't know. But he was 100% the exact hero that I looked up to him as when he was around me. But yeah, I don't know. And, you know, I kind of always, you know, with that whole thing, I've always been like, well, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how pleasant of a person I'd be either if all that stuff, if I was married and all that stuff was coming out about my wife and I'm finding out my wife is banging my son's friends. And so I would probably not be a very pleasant person either if people were making jokes in spite of that either. However, I completely don't think that was okay, you know, and I think Joe Rogan kind of said it the best where he's like, you got to on some level think that he thinks he's always in he's always in a movie because no person would actually think I'm going to get up and smack this person on TV.
Right.
Like,
and I think that's why a lot of people that were watching it thought it was a bit. They're like, no way, this is real. Like, this can't be.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, I guess it was. And so I don't know. And I'm curious about that. And, you know, I don't know if maybe it wasn't all. I would hope not because, you know, they say don't ever meet your heroes. But, like, I would hope that it wasn't an act how he was when he was around me because he was great to be around. Yeah. He was hilarious. He was respectful. And he never seemed like he had an issue at any point during that.
Right. And it made it even more awkward that he won an Oscar later.
Which also pisses me off because, like, don't get me wrong, Will is one of those guys that he's deserved an Oscar for a long time. It was well deserved. I hate that it came in that fashion, that way.
Yeah, because you don't hear Will Smith think, "Oh, Oscar winner." You
think he smacked Chris Rock on live
television. Yeah.
And I hate
keep my wife's name out of your mouth. So yeah, that's tough that it happened together.
Yes, yeah. I agree because he definitely deserved that Oscar. But
that was a great movie. King Richard, such a good movie.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I think I literally just watched it the day before the Oscars. Yeah, my mom's obsessed with the Oscars and movies and stuff. She was like, "Let's watch it before the Oscars tomorrow." So we watched it, and then we were watching the Oscars, and same thing, man.
But he killed that. He killed that role. It was fantastic.
So good.
Fantastic.
But yeah, no, that's and you mentioned about like your experience with you can only go off of what you know, what you saw, and what you experienced yourself. So there's no issue with that. Like you know what you saw and what you experienced, right?
Yeah.
So, going into like you were having a nice little role of like all-star casts, and obviously The Blind Side, you have Sandra Bullock, Tim McGraw, Kathy Bates, Lily Collins. Like this was a star-studded cast. So another football thing, which is cool for this little Texan. So then where did this come in now, and how did that audition happen? Like again, as you were kind of progressing, it was like one after another, ball rolling, dominoes falling, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And at this point, obviously I had a little momentum going because we're coming off of Hancock, but these were not connected in any way, shape, or form.
Oh.
I was in Texas. This audition comes in, and you know, if you're not in LA and if they're auditioning people in LA or Atlanta or wherever they are, and you're not there and they want you to read for it, you have to send a self-tape. So we filmed it in my living room, my mom's house. My mom held a $200 at the time, a flip camera. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah.
A little flash drive because iPhones were iPhone 3s, so like they weren't people weren't using them like that yet.
They're the fat ones, the real thick ones.
Yeah, literally they didn't even have FaceTime yet. FaceTime wasn't. You know what I mean? So you still had to use a flip either an actual camera or we used a flip camera. We plugged that into the computer, and you pray to God it didn't destroy your computer or wipe your computer, which we did have happen one time for another audition. It completely just destroyed our computer somehow. And I did that, and my dad was the reader, and he stood behind my mom with the script, and I stood in the thing, and they filmed it, and we sent it in, via an email attachment. And the character was kind of like Bo Miller in a lot of ways. But the inspiration I took from it, the idea in my head that I had when I was doing this, the character that came to mind was, have you ever seen the movie Remember the Titans?
Yes.
Okay, so you remember, Hayden Panettiere's character, the daughter?
Yep.
I pictured SJ as the male version of that.
Okay.
That was in my mind. That was what this character. From what I read, I was like, this seems like the guy version of that character. What would that
Okay.
be?
Yeah.
That was kind of my thought process going into it. So we filmed this self-tape in my living room of my house, and we send it in. A couple days, a week or so. I don't really remember exactly how much time, but little time goes by, and we get a call that, hey, they really liked your tape. They want you to read. They want you to read in person. They're gonna pay, and they're gonna fly you out to Atlanta, and you're gonna read in front of the producers and the director. And at that point, like I'd been around the business a few years, so I knew that, like, okay, at this point, there's probably only me and 3 other kids that they're looking at this point. So I fly out to Atlanta, me and my dad, and we go out there, and I'm in this office, and it was very similar to the Friday Night Lights audition. I get there, and they're just asking me, hey, what do you like to do? What do you about football? What do you this and this and this? And I kind of just kicked into that gear again, and was like, oh, I really enjoy it, and this and that, and I'm really excited for football season. And the Jets are looking crazy. They got Brett Favre now, and like I remember like all that was going on. And that was the first time I met Quentin, who plays Big Mike. He was there, and he'd already had it. He was their guy, and he was there. And they had us do a little chemistry, not necessarily a chemistry test, but they had us hang out for like an hour.
Right.
And like before we even brought the script out, they were like, "Hey, this is Quentin. Talk." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like we're walking around this office building, and we're kind of, of course I'll talk to you. I don't care. So me and him start chit chatting and whatever, and we start laughing. And they're like taking photos. We're like posing together, and they're taking photos of us and like stuff like that. And that was the first for me. I was like, I didn't understand it at the time. I was like, all right, cool. They're letting me hang out. I like it. Cool. Because I was always told that the longer they keep you in the room, the better. You don't want them to kick you out, because if they kick you out, that means you're done.
Yeah.
So we hang out for probably an hour or two, just talking, hanging out, walking around, eating chips and whatnot, and drinking soda in the office. And then they're like, all right, hey, let's turn that camera on. Let's Quentin, you're gonna read the part of Big Mike. Jay, you're gonna read SJ, and let's just see what happens. And so we read this. The audition scene was they had me do both scenes. They had me do the salt and pepper where we're playing with the right. That was the one scene we did.
Okay.
And then the other scene we did was when I first meet him, when I'm like that, when he scares those little girls, and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, just smile. But that was the 2 scenes they had us do. And we do those 2 scenes, and I'm in Atlanta. I'm not at home, so I do it, and they're like, hey, good, solid job, great job. And this is like a Tuesday or Wednesday in April, and I fly. The audition goes, and we fly back either that night or the next morning. We fly back home, and I get back from the airport. I'm not home 30 minutes. I'm literally my bag is still sitting from the trip. My bag is still sitting right here, not unpacked or anything. Yeah. I bet I was home. I might not have even taken my shoes off yet. And my manager calls and says, "Hey, you booked it. Like they want you for the role." And so at this point, this is like a Wednesday. Like I said, this is a Wednesday or a Thursday, and it's the week before Easter. And so this is like that Wednesday or Thursday, and they go, the only thing is you're leaving on Sunday. And they're like, you're going to be gone until June. So I had Thursday and Friday to basically, and this is like I said, this is the middle of the school year. And I'm in 6th grade, I think, at the time. So that next day, I have to go to school and tell all my teachers, hey, I need y'all have essentially 24 hours to gather all of my schoolwork for the rest of the year. And so like I had a stack of papers, a stack of books, and whatever, because I had to take it with me, because that's how it works. You still got to go to school. Which is the worst part of being a child actor is on-set school. It is awful. But so we leave that Sunday, like literally 3 days, and I was gone. Didn't come back until middle of the summer. It was like mid-June when I came back, and that movie was, a crazy experience. And we had no idea when we're filming this how big this film was about to be, because you don't know. Everybody think, it's like you're creating anything else. It's like, this might be great. We don't know. It might suck. We have no idea. And I remember the craziest thing that we kept talking about was how fast they were trying to get the turnaround on this. Because for a film, it typically takes anywhere from like a year to 2-3 years from like the time you're finished shooting to the time it comes out. Because the typical editing schedule is about 26 weeks for like post-production is about 26 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you got to have, probably at least another 20, 25 weeks of like where the trailer is out and you're marketing it and trying to get people to go see it and do all that. So at least a year is what you're talking about. We were shooting this in, like I said, April through June. I think they all finished like early July is when it finally finished. And they're like, yeah, this is coming out in November, by the way.
I remember seeing it. I was in grade. It was 2009, I think, right?
Yeah.
And I was in grade. I would have been in grade 8, and I
Yeah.
remember seeing it in theaters. And it's so funny you say November because I have November in my head, which is hilarious. Yeah, I remember seeing it in that November of 2009.
Yeah, they wanted it because so at the time, if you remember, so Michael got drafted to the NFL while we were shooting that.
Oh,
so he gets drafted. Like I literally watched the NFL draft in the apartment while in Atlanta while we were shooting. Like I watched him get drafted while we were shooting the film.
Yeah.
And they were like, we want it out in November because the holidays. That's family time. We want this. It's a great family movie, and we want this out. But they were like, we need it out because he's about to be a rookie. It's literally perfect timing. We have to So we were literally. It was completely. I don't know how often people are doing this, but I know it's not very common, especially now. But we were literally like shooting stuff, and they were sending it to the editors. We'd shoot on Monday. On Tuesday, those guys had it, and we're working on it. Wow. Usually you have all of it done before you even remotely start doing that.
Yeah.
So they were doing post-production while we were still filming, because that's how they had to do it. Like we did. I remember I went to the wrap party, to celebrate that we're all done. We wrapped. It's all done, and they were like, "Hey, obviously we don't have much, but here's a little trailer that we built for you guys." And we at the wrap party watched a little 30-second trailer, and it was.
And that's not normal, right? To watch a trailer at the wrap party.
We didn't do that at Hancock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't do that. Hancock was a year and a half from the time we finished to the time it came out. Granted, Hancock had a lot more explosions and special effects.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing like the CGI version of like the whole fight that they were doing, like with the cranes and all that. I remember seeing while we were filming, it looked like a crappy video game at that time. But you could tell they had like a little bit of it was done. But yeah, they were like trying to get, because they were like, we need it out while the momentum of him being drafted. It's his rookie season. We have to have it out. We have to get it out there.
That's literally perfect. That's crazy that the time
the way all that lined up is like they couldn't have. I remember they were doing a story on him for the draft because the book was already out, and I remember watching. I was sitting at like a Mexican food restaurant, and like I'm sitting there eating, and there is on the TV. They're talking about him, and they're talking about the book, and like we're filming it, and they literally say I remember, I'll never forget. They were like, the book has sold this many copies. A movie is on the way. Blah blah blah. And I was like, we're literally shooting that right now.
Yeah, it's literally on the way.
Like we're literally working on that right now. Like I have work tomorrow at 9 a.m. for this movie you're talking about. But yeah, and so that's a pretty wild experience. But like working with Sandra Bullock is like she is as good as advertised, and she is the best, and she is so. I mean, she is a professional, and she is like she'll get on you because she very much believes in like hey, we're working right now and we're playing later.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and do not mess that up. Like, because I said this recently for like the first time ever, and it dawned on me. I was like, because I was kind of like, she was kind of like strict and harsh, and I remember being like a kid, being like, she's kind of mean. But now as an adult, I look back, I'm like, no, you were her coworker, and y'all have a job to do. You know what I mean? So like, she has a level and she has standards that she expects from herself and from the people around her, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You have to live up to those standards, and so like I learned quite a bit from her about preparation and how serious you take things, and like she'll jump on you if you're messing around, but she's also the first person, if you have a good take, she's like, good job, kid, that's gonna be gold, that's gonna be great, I can't wait to see that. Like she's the first person to give you your flowers, like when you know what I mean. So it's like, I mean, like a clear-cut leader, a clear-cut professional. Because when you mess up, she'll let you know, hey, you messed up, don't mess up. We're here to do a job. But when you do a good job, she's the first one in line clapping your name. She was so amazing to me. Hanging out with her, she's hilarious. And she's such a sweet woman. I've told that she made me a homemade pecan pie so I didn't get homesick, and like hand delivered it to me to my trailer one morning. Like literally, I'm sitting there getting dressed or whatever, and just dun 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 on my trailer door, and I open it. and there's future Oscar winner Sandra Bullock sitting there with a pecan pie, and she goes, "Hey, I know we're not home, but hopefully this makes you feel more like it." I was like, for nothing, for no reason.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Just being nice. That's insane.
So she, like, I tell people, like, I would take a bullet for that woman. Like, and then she had all that stuff, like, right after that, and the movie had come out was when all that stuff with her husband, cheating on her and all that had blown up. And it was, I remember being, like, genuinely pissed off because I was like, that is a great woman. And how dare something like that be happening to her? It genuinely pissed me off. And then, like, Tim McGraw is the coolest dude in the world. Like, he is so badass. And, like, he brought his guitar every day. And so, like, in between takes, like I said, you're waiting around a lot of times. He's sitting in his chair in the corner. And he's just sitting there playing, just chilling. And he'll sit there and talk with you all day while he's sitting there playing his guitar. And then if you're lucky, he might break into a song and everybody will start gathering around. He'll start singing. And you're just sitting there and you're just like, this is my life right now. This is insane.
Dude, some guys got it all, man. Good looking, can act, he can sing.
Dude, great guy. And just a genuinely a good guy. And like my grandparents went with me for most of that shoot because it was the middle of the school year and my parents are teachers, so they couldn't go with me. And like I remember him and my granddad like really hit it off. And like Tim wrote my granddad a letter at the very end, was like, "Hey, like you're a great man. Your grandson is phenomenal. I look up to you." Like, I mean, like this whole letter like that he'd written him for nothing, just cuz.
Wow.
Like genuinely great people. And then Lily Collins is like the biggest sweetheart ever. I ambushed her a few that's probably about 10 years ago now. She was doing that. She had a book coming out that she'd written a book and it was releasing, and she was in LA at the Grove and she was doing a book signing and like an interview, like a Q&A for her new book. And it was at a Barnes and Noble, and I called the Barnes and Noble and was like, "Hey, my name's Jae Head. I played Lily Collins' little brother in The Blind Side. I would love if y'all could like sneak me in through the back door and I could get," because at that time I hadn't seen her in years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if it's at all possible, I'm like, I'm not trying to like steal her thunder or anything. I just want to say hi to her real quick and just congratulate her on, on everything. And they let me, and I came in and they snuck me through the back door, and I walked up and I could tell as I'm like walking up to her, she's kind of like she's like, I know. And then it clicks and she goes, "Jay?" And like, just like, big hug. And it's like the first, and I hadn't seen her since I was probably 13, and at this point I was like 19 or 20, you know what I mean? So it was like this really sweet moment. I got to see her. I got to see her mom, who I hadn't seen in, since however that amount, the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And it was a really good moment. And then Q and I, we still talk. Like me and him still text and whatnot. And
no way.
Yeah, we're still buddies. Like we don't talk a whole lot. He's got his whole life, and his birthday is tomorrow actually.
No way.
So yeah. So tomorrow's his birthday, as a matter of fact.
That's awesome.
I will definitely be giving him a call. So,
that's unreal, dude. That's so sick. Was it tough for you to play like a real person, seeing as you hadn't done that before?
Honestly, I get that question a lot, and I was really lucky. I kind of just played myself. Like,
I see SJ and Bo Miller, like we mentioned before, they kind of have similarities.
Yeah. I think Sandra was the one that really had to hone it, and like she was like living with them for a while. And like before we filmed, she was living at their house for a while. Like
no way.
Yeah, studying Leanne Tui and all that stuff, and like they came to everybody. I've met everybody, and they would all come to set and whatnot, except the only person I've not met is Michael. To this day, I've never met him. And we were told at the time, he didn't want to relive that part of his past, which I completely understand. I completely respect that. And we've always known he has an issue with us. Him and Quentin do not get along. And I understand. I see both sides of the coin, because he was very upset that we Hollywoodized it a little bit, and he's like, they made me sound like I was dumb and like I didn't know anything, and I didn't know that. Of course I don't know any of this because I'm 12. We're doing this. I'm showing up, saying my words, and going home. I was excited to play my video games, and I got that's all that was on my mind. I didn't care, but I didn't know this until years later. But like he was already a 5-star recruit before he ever moved in with them, so. It wasn't so, we kind of portrayed it as like he didn't know anything, but the reality was he was already being highly recruited by big schools before they got it. And like I know a lot of flack came in, and I really hate that, and I understand every man should have the right to be the hero of his own story. and I completely understand that. And I hate that, we did, that did happen, and he felt that way. But it's like, I don't think it can all be. I don't think it's all negative. I think, you know what I mean. I think he probably did make a good chunk of change off of the endorsements and stuff that he did get after the film came out, and I understand if he felt like it brought unnecessary magnification to his life, to his career, and people were watching him probably harder than they would have on average. But there's nothing in life is all good or all bad. I mean, there's a little bit of both and everything.
Right.
And so, but the rest of that the family was really sweet to us, and they were really nice to me. And actually, SJ, I've actually he got a job in the front office at UCF for their football team a couple of years, like 3-4 years ago, I think. And I sent him I DM'd him and was like, "Hey man, I saw you got hired. Congratulations. I hope you're doing well." And he messaged me back. It was like, "Hey man," because we met multiple times, and
Yeah.
but we don't talk. But he was like, "Hey man, it's good to talk to you. It's good to see you. Everything's going good. I hope everything's going good with you, and all that kind of stuff." And so I wish him the best, and all that. And he was a great guy. And he was a really great guy to meet. And I met him. He's actually in the film.
Oh.
So there's a little Easter egg in there. So there's I can't remember the exact spot, but it's in the scene right before the play happens, where he throws the guy over right before that happens. There's a shot where it backs up and it shows all of us sitting in the stands. There's kind of like this moment where it kind of comes in and it's showing all the family. And I think it was like Sandra was here, I was here, and then Tim was here. And then there's like a random guy over here, and maybe one or two people. And then the real SJ is sitting like you can see him on camera. Like he's in the film, he's literally sitting there like this. Like you can actually,
cool.
so he's in it. And I love telling that story because I love little Easter eggs like that. Just in general, I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we snuck him in there. And
That's sick.
I think he's the only one of the family members that is actually in the film. But he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't have any. That's the only shot you actually see him. And if you don't know what you're looking for, what to look for, you won't notice it. But once you notice it, you see it. You're like, "Oh my God, there he is, right there."
That's awesome. I love that. Last Blindside question: if Blindside was made today, who do you think should play SJ?
Oh dang! I like the kid from what's that kid that's hanging around Ryan Reynolds a lot?
Oh yes, I'm blanking on his name too, but I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
People say that he could be like Kid Deadpool as well.
Yes, him.
Yes.
I think he would be really good at it.
The other person I thought of was Jacob Tremblay when he was younger.
Yes. Yeah.
He would have been good too because he has the fast-paced talking kind of thing as well. That's a good one though. Is it Warren something?
I don't know, and I feel bad that I don't know this guy.
I know I'm blanking on the name, but I know exactly who you're talking. He was in the Adam Project. It's called.
Yes, him. Yes.
Yeah, I think he'd be good at it either.
I think he'd be good.
That's a good one. Last few things before I go to your last question. On your IMDb, as I looked, there's a gap. There's probably like a 4 to 5 year gap, maybe. So, did you take a break from acting?
So, this is a question I get a lot. Hollywood, as I learned, is very, very unforgiving. As you can probably imagine, after Blindside, my life changed quite drastically. And like I said, I had missed half of school year shooting The Blindside. And this is about the time, like I said, I'm 12, 13 years old. So I got the green light from my doctors to play sports. So that was a big deal to me. I'm in junior high, it's about the time you start liking girls and, all that kind of stuff. And I felt like I'm not getting to do anything that kids get to do at that age. Granted, woe is me,
Yeah, true. Okay, fair.
Boo-hoo, but I felt like I was missing out.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was reaching a point where I wasn't getting to make a lot of decisions. It was a lot of, hey, you got to go here. You have this thing you got to be at here. You got this book thing that you got to be at. You have this event you have to show up at. These people want you to speak at this. And it's all great. Don't get me wrong. But when you just want to be able to experience junior high and playing sports and getting a girlfriend, you want to do all because that's what all my friends were doing. Mm-hmm. And that's what all they were doing. And I was the kid that was leaving, having to miss out on games because I have an event I have to go to. And like I said, woe is me, but it is real and I looked at I was like, my life is speeding up And these are years that I'm never, ever going to have back. And so I committed the ultimate sin in Hollywood, which is I said no. And I had a big blockbuster film, came in and offered me the lead role. No audition or nothing. My exact dream of what I told Will Smith, how I would love to not ever have to audition again. I'd reached that point, and I said no. My agents, my managers, everybody told me, kid, it's your life. You make the decision. We want you to be happy. I did not know that was all bullshit. So I turned this movie down. I'll tell you, it was the movie The Dolphin Tale.
Oh,
that was going to be me, and I said no. And after that, they were like, okay, this kid obviously doesn't take this very seriously, and I was kind of exiled from after that. And that's kind of why nobody's ever seen me ever again.
Right.
Because I was told,
that's crazy.
I was told, listen, kid, you're just a kid. If you want to pick this up one day, it'll be here waiting for you. That's not true. That's not how it works. And my dad told me. My dad, and we talk about it quite a bit, and it is a very sore subject when me and him talk about it, because he begged me. He was like, if you ever listen to me right now and take this job. And I just, at the time, I was just like, I just want to be a kid. I want to be able to experience just being a teenager for a little bit. And my thought process was, if I'm this good, and I'm as good as everybody tells me I am, and I don't even really know what I'm doing at 13 years old, but when I'm 18, 19, 20, when I'm an adult, I'll know I'll be good. I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, my agents stopped answering the phone. My managers quit really calling. I still was getting some auditions, but not really many. And that was kind of that. And I cooled off. You know, I was really hot for a while, and the momentum stopped. And so that's why there was a gap of, I did take a break, because I was like, I just want a couple of years to be able to be a kid. And, you know, hindsight's 20/20. You know what I mean? And it's easy to say, look back and go, well, if you'd just, you know, do I regret it? Yes and no.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you that, because I was going to say that would be it's a loaded question, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes and no is the answer. Do I regret it? Because my life would probably be quite different had I said yes, because that movie did have a sequel, and I don't know what else it would have led to. So that's kind of, that kind of sucks, you know, but at the same time, the humility that I gained from going to public school after, you know, and, you know, like, I was bullied just like everybody else is. You know, I played sports and got my bell rung on the football field just like everybody else did. I got dumped just like everybody else did. And I learned that, hey, you know, you ain't that special as you think. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you always hear stories of child actors that grow up and they end up becoming insane because they never got to live out their kid years when they were kids. So now they're an adult with no supervision, and now they have all this money, and now they go doing stupid stuff. They're going and doing dumb stuff. I fully believe I would have done that. Mm-hmm. I fully believe I would have been an idiot and done who knows what.
Yeah.
You know, not to trash myself, but
but I mean, that's fair. Yeah,
I saw it coming. I felt it coming. The ego that I had at that time. I mean, I was, you know, you couldn't tell me anything. You know, I wasn't listening to anybody.
I mean, when you're 12 years old and you've already worked with all the kind of actors you did in an Oscar-winning movie, how would you not?
Yeah, and so it's, you know, so that's what happened. And so my next film I didn't do until I was 16. I did another film, and it was called Brave Town, with Josh Duhamel and Laura Dern played my mom, and Lucas Till, you know, MacGyver. He was in it. Really cool dude, by the way. He's an awesome guy.
Oh yeah, everyone will know him from the Hannah Montana
every
movie,
time
and the Taylor Swift music video.
Every time they're like, you worked with all the girls in my class were like, that's who you're working with? Oh my gosh. And I was like, okay, I'm in it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But like, he was such a cool guy too. Like, everybody was really cool. But yeah, and then that's kind of why if you go on my IMDb, there's like not much after that. And then when I was 18 and graduated high school, I graduated May of 2015, and August of 2015, I moved out to LA and started auditioning and whatnot. And I've done a couple things here and there. My most recent thing is I did Yellowstone. I was on one episode of that, which I'm really grateful for and really blessed for. And other than that, I haven't done a whole lot. But I still am acting. I still audition. And I still do, all the things. And the cool thing about acting is it's not like sports where you only get a few years and then your body kind of gives up on you. With acting, you can do it forever as long as you want. You got Clint Eastwood's in his 90s. He still does it. You got Daniel Day-Lewis, who retired 8 years ago. Well, he has a movie coming out now.
Yeah.
That the trailer just dropped. So I still have hope, and I still, I'm holding out, and I still, like I said, I still go to class. I still, audition. And I still do all that. I have my managers in LA. I have an agent here in Texas, and it's just a crazy business. The business has changed so much. Social media has completely changed the business, and now we have AI, which is going to be a thing we're battling now. And I don't know what the future looks like.
Right.
With all that, because I don't know if actors will even be a thing anymore in 5 to 10 years. We very well be extinct, and I don't know.
My fiance and I went to the movies the other day. We saw Freaker Friday, and there's no two people you would find that love the movie theater more than us. And every single time we go, we always say to each other, like, I hope when we have kids, this is still a thing. Like,
I love the movie.
Like, it's the best, man. The popcorn, the pop, the movie itself, like,
I love
the best. And with AI, again, same thing. You don't know.
We don't know because I can now go into ChatGPT and say, give me a Star Wars prequel, make it this, and this, give it 30 minutes, and it's on TV. It's on the screen.
I literally did that once I went on ChatGPT and I said, give me a movie with Will Ferrell, Adam Sandler, and Zac Efron, a comedy, and it wrote me the whole thing, the plot and everything. I even showed my parents after. I was like, I want to see this movie.
Yeah.
Like this made up thing. So it's scary that you can do that. And I'm someone who wastes the most dumb resources with ChatGPT, like the stupidest things in the world. But yeah, I'll ask you freaking anything. I had to write a movie about me and my fiance go to trip to Vegas, and Dylan and Cole Sprouse are there, and then there's a whole adventure with all of us, and it wrote this whole thing.
And it's great. I'm sure it's great too.
And it is, and I want it to be a real thing. But like that's where it comes in. Like people talk about like the attention spans, and like would movie theaters now go vertical because that's how people are consuming all their media, right? So it's like it sounds dumb, but you never know.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, and it's a wild thing that I never would have. I don't think anybody could have guessed that was coming. But yeah, it's a genuine fear, and it's like you notice like there's no movie stars like there was back in the like you have the Tom Cruises and the DiCaprios and the Brad Pitts, but like. Those guys were the guys 20 years ago too. 30 years ago, those were the guys.
Yeah.
There's not really. I think Chalamet is probably the only one of this generation. You know what I mean? You're like I'm gonna go see it because he is a legit movie star, and me and him have the same birthday, by the way. So like, shout out.
No way. It's I was just gonna say because I felt I was pretty sure he's my age, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
The three of us
I don't know if it's the same. I don't know if it's the same year, but we are the same day.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm a huge. Shout out him. Like he's somebody I would kill to work with because he's fantastic. But he's the hottest commodity in Hollywood right now as far as our in our generation.
100%.
But I genuinely, and I've had conversations with other actors in my team about that. I'm like, I genuinely wonder, are there going to be movie stars tomorrow? You know what I mean? Is that going to be a thing, or are they just going to be AI?
It's a lot easier to be famous now.
It is so much easier to be famous. Everybody has a camera and that's the other thing that
look, I'm literally doing that right now.
Like literally,
right?
like, and it's also frustrating. The whole influencer thing is now is also a part of which that wasn't a thing even 10 years ago.
Yeah,
that wasn't.
Like we had Vine and that was it.
It literally, and like now it's a big thing in Hollywood of like producers have now quotas for like the cast has to have a combined this many amount of followers, and it's like. Which is very frustrating because it's like, I hate social media. I'm not even on it that much. I don't like it. I don't like posting. I don't like I'm not that guy. I just don't, I'm not going to dance for you. I'm not going to be like, hey, get ready with me to go see the zoo. This is a lion. I couldn't believe it. Here's a
Yeah.
churro. What? It's good. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't do. I act. I tell stories. I perform. I don't do all that shit.
Yeah.
But we're at a time and we're at a place with a business like where you have to. You literally have to. And so that's also another frustrating aspect of the business we're in today. But I don't know. I think there will always be want for human created art.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why paintings from hundreds of years ago are still famous today because, you know what I mean? Even though AI can make something just as gorgeous or if not better, there's something about it because a human made it.
100%.
You know, and I genuinely believe that. And I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like, and it scares the shit out of me to tell you.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it really is scary. Last thing I got for you, Jay, ask everyone this is what's one thing you miss most about being a kid?
I miss homework being the biggest issue I had.
Yes, I say that all the time. I never did my homework. That was the thing. I always had to fake it. But that's a great answer. Homework being the biggest issue. You
know what I mean? Being the thing that stressed me out stressed me out the most was, does Susie from third period history like me?
Yes.
You know what I mean? That being my biggest concern.
And then as I got a little older, it was like, oh, how am I going to get to and from this party in high school? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was the biggest thing. Like, how are we going to get beer? Like this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this. This was
so
unreal.
Yeah. No, I love it. This was so much fun. Like, I'll come back anytime.
You're the man, dude. This was all. I appreciate you letting me pick your brain with all these silly questions the last hour and a half.
No, I love it, dude. I love chatting about it, and I never, I like living, I like telling the stories and sharing my experiences because they're real and they really happened. And, and I know everybody says this, but it seems in a lot of ways like a completely different life, a lifetime, that I was living. And, I still see photos of me from, being on red carpets with, I have a photo of me and Selena Gomez before she was Selena Gomez. And it's like, and it's wild, and it's to think that was life.
Well, it's crazy to think that movies I'd watched when I was 12, 13, I'm now chatting with those people. The fact that things like Hancock's coming up to 20 years, Blindside's coming up to 20 years. And I vividly remember seeing these movies in theaters. Now being able to chat with people just like you is really cool. So I really appreciate it, man. It's been an honor to be able to chat with you. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I love it, and I'm glad you're interested. And I'm glad you want to know these things because they are great, fun stories to tell, and they always make me happy getting to tell them. And awesome, Jay. Well, you're the man, buddy, and we'll have to get you on again sometime.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
All right, we'll see you later.
See you, brother.
And that was the Quinn Marr Show.